How to hold a grudge challenges conventional wisdom by reinterpreting the role of grudges in our emotional lives. Traditionally, grudges are seen as negative, something to let go of in order to achieve peace and personal growth. However, this book presents a fresh perspective. Grudges, when handled correctly, can be valuable tools for self-awareness, boundary setting, and emotional resilience. Rather than suppressing our feelings or forcing ourselves to forgive prematurely, we can learn to hold grudges in a way that serves us, rather than harms us. A grudge, in this sense, is not about bitterness or revenge but about processing our experiences, learning from them, and ensuring that we protect ourselves from similar harm in the future. At its core, a grudge is a memory of a past wrongdoing that holds emotional weight. The key distinction is that it does not have to be a source of suffering. Instead of allowing grudges to fester into resentment, we can reshape them into lessons that help us navigate relationships and personal boundaries more effectively. A well-held grudge is one that empowers us rather than poisons us. It is about acknowledging what happened, validating our feelings, and using that knowledge to make better decisions. One of the fundamental arguments in how to hold a grudge is that suppressing negative emotions can be far more harmful than acknowledging them. Many people feel pressured to forgive in order to be seen as mature or emotionally evolved. However, forced forgiveness often leads to unresolved emotions, lingering resentment, and repeated patterns of being mistreated. Holding a grudge, when done consciously, allows us to recognize wrongdoing, affirm our self-worth, and ensure we do not tolerate similar behavior in the future. The book emphasizes that grudges do not have to be filled with anger or a desire for revenge. Instead, they can be neutral or even humorous reflections on past events. Viewing grudges as stories, ones that we can revisit with detachment, gives us a sense of control over our emotions. This approach transforms grudges from something toxic into something empowering. Instead of ruminating on negativity, we can frame our grudges as reminders of lessons learned. A well-managed grudge helps establish personal boundaries. Often, people who struggle with assertiveness find themselves repeatedly hurt because they have not clearly defined their limits. A grudge serves as a mental note, reminding us of past experiences where our boundaries were crossed. By recognizing patterns, we become more intentional about who we trust, how we engage in relationships, and what behaviors we accept from others. The process of holding a grudge effectively requires a shift in mindset. Instead of viewing grudges as emotional baggage, we should see them as a personal archive of life lessons. Each grudge represents an event where someone treated us unfairly, but rather than dwelling on anger, we can catalog these experiences with detachment. This way, grudges become tools of self-protection rather than sources of pain. The book suggests even naming our grudges to make them feel more structured and less emotionally overwhelming. The idea of emotional justice is also explored in How to Hold a Grudge. Many people struggle with grudges because they feel unresolved, a lack of closure, an injustice that was never rectified. The book argues that waiting for external justice can be a frustrating and powerless position. Instead, we can create our own internal sense of justice by allowing ourselves to acknowledge the wrongdoing and recognize that we deserve better. This internal resolution prevents grudges from becoming consuming obsessions. Contrary to popular belief, holding a grudge does not prevent personal growth. In fact, it can enhance self-awareness and emotional intelligence. When we analyze why a particular event or action affected us so deeply, we gain insight into our values, insecurities, and emotional triggers. Grudges reveal what matters to us, what we expect from others, and where we need to set stronger boundaries. This self-reflection is crucial for emotional well-being. One of the biggest misconceptions about holding a grudge is that it means carrying negativity indefinitely. The book dispels this notion, showing that a healthy grudge does not require dwelling on pain but rather using past experiences as reference points for better decision-making. We do not have to replay the hurt repeatedly. Instead, we can acknowledge it, extract wisdom from it, and move forward with a clearer understanding of our needs and expectations. The book also emphasizes the importance of balancing our perspective. Not every grudge needs to be held on to forever, and not every offense deserves the same level of emotional energy. Some grudges, particularly those rooted in misunderstandings or minor inconveniences, can be softened over time. The ability to distinguish between significant grievances and trivial annoyances ensures that we do not become overly rigid or bitter. Grudges can also be a source of humor. Sometimes, looking back at certain situations with a sense of irony or amusement can reduce their emotional weight. By reframing grudges as entertaining anecdotes rather than painful memories, we regain a sense of power over them. This shift in perspective prevents grudges from becoming sources of chronic resentment and instead turns them into manageable, even light-hearted, reflections on human nature. Forgiveness, when it happens, should be genuine and self-directed rather than forced. The book does not argue against forgiveness but rather against the idea that we must rush into it for the sake of emotional closure. True forgiveness can only happen when we are ready, and sometimes, the best form of emotional closure is simply acknowledging that a person or situation was harmful and allowing ourselves to move forward without reconciling. Ultimately, How to Hold a Grudge redefines the way we think about emotional wounds. Instead of fearing grudges, we should embrace them as part of our psychological toolkit. A well-managed grudge can be a source of wisdom, protection, and self-respect. It allows us to recognize patterns, learn from past experiences, and cultivate stronger, healthier relationships moving forward. In the end, holding a grudge is not about being stuck in the past, it is about honoring our experiences, respecting our emotions, and ensuring that we grow from every challenge we face. When we learn to hold grudges in a constructive way, we become more self-aware, emotionally resilient, and confident in our ability to navigate the complexities of human relationships.